Hello, and thanks for choosing to rent your vehicle from Thrifty. Most vans are just like regular cars. They're comfortable and built with safety features like ABS brakes, stability control systems, and steering wheel airbags. But there are a few differences that you need to be aware of, including how large the vehicle is, how this affects steering and braking, and the additional potential blind spots these vans might have. Check you know how the lights, wipers, air conditioning, audio controls all work before hitting the road. As with driving any sort of vehicle, always scan the road ahead for obstacles or hazards and be sure to adjust your driving to suit. Now, because a van is much larger and heavier, it's important that you alter your driving style to match, simply because there's much more weight to bring to a stop when braking, and the added size and weight will affect your cornering ability too. It's essential to keep your eye on your speed and consider the extra braking distance needed if you have a full load in the back of the van. Be sure to leave a safe distance between your van and the vehicle in front of you. Width can also be an issue in larger van classes, especially when you're driving around narrow residential streets. So you may need to give yourself more room to manoeuvre than you would, say, in your average car or sedan. Be sure to use your external mirrors when you're turning to get a clear view of the space around you. It sounds really obvious, but the bigger the van, the more space you're going to need to leave as you enter a corner or make a turn around an obstacle. Most vans are much taller than the average car, meaning that you need to consider height restrictions when you're driving your van. Find out the exact height and size of your van so you know whether you can squeeze into any multi-storey car park or not. Failing to get that right can be expensive, so when in doubt, don't. High winds can be hazardous when you're driving a van, especially if the van's empty. That's because they have a higher centre of gravity and will be affected by windier conditions much more than a car, which is lower to the ground. The best tip for driving in windy conditions is to slow down slightly, keep your eyes on the road, and keep a safe distance from other vehicles, especially high-sided trucks or buses. As always, avoid driving in adverse weather conditions wherever possible, especially in a vehicle that you're not used to. It's important to be aware of the differences between driving an empty and a fully loaded van. Now, for starters, the large storage bay and carrying capacity means that a van can accommodate heavy loads. This makes a significant difference to all aspects of performance, from acceleration to braking and handling. Each van also has weight limits, which is the maximum amount it can weigh when it's fully loaded. If you exceed this limit, it can affect the vehicle's performance, not to mention your safety. An overloaded or poorly loaded van can be dangerous. Take note of the van's maximum load capacity and make sure that all items and materials are loaded securely to avoid any personal injury. It's also important to spread the contents evenly and as low as possible in the bay to ensure safety and to minimise damage. Loose items and materials can be a serious hazard, and you must make sure those are secured properly by tying them down and using the appropriate securing apparatus. Before packing and driving your van for the first time, place the heaviest items at the bottom to help get the weight distribution right and to keep your van as stable as possible. Before starting your journey, check your visibility and make yourself aware of any blind spots. Ensure that your wing mirrors are correctly adjusted to minimise blind spots around the van. Rearward visibility is another major difference between vans and cars. The main rear window may be blocked by the load you're carrying or by the load restraint barrier. Safely reversing, manoeuvring and parking a van can also be a little bit tricky. You can make life a little bit easier by taking the long walk around the vehicle to ensure that it's clear of any objects that may potentially cause you problems when reversing. When possible, ask a passenger or a colleague to get out and act as a guide. Remember to use all the aids at your disposal. This includes mirrors and cameras, as well as reversing sensors when fitted. As you're reversing, be on high alert for any passing traffic or pedestrians. Now, if you have any questions, be sure to ask our friendly team and enjoy the drive.